Hi there, Joshua Hanlon here with Dan Siskin at the Brickmania GHQ headquarters in Minneapolis, and today we're taking a look at the Black Hawk Down display here in the store at the GHQ. So take us through, there's a lot of action here. What is going on?
Right, this is part of a giant display that we had. It was several tables, but this is the main. When we cycled the parts for that, we kept the main action scene. So the movie Black Hawk Down, which is actually based on the Battle of Mogadishu. What was it, 1993, something like that? So, you know, it was years ago, but the whole thing evolved around, you know, the U.S. was going in there to stop the bad guy warlords from like stealing all the food and running rampant through the city. Ended up in one of the missions, a Black Hawk helicopter went down, and they had to go rescue the pilots. And then, you know, if you've seen the movie, you know the story. It all actually happened. And we decided we were going to do a ode to the movie and ode to the battle and recreate the whole scene. Like I said, this is just a piece. We had the whole intersection, the whole battle. It's kind of overkill. It's like we saved as much as we possibly could in this one diorama. At one point, the propellers on the helicopters turned, but we had to stop them because the motors were getting really loud and squeaky over time. So we're like, let's just not do that. That can't be good for the motors. But Brick Stuff graciously donated all these lights, these lighting effects. In fact, they made these machine gun effects just so we could have this diorama.
Perfect.
So everybody who's got the machine gun effect from Brick Stuff, you can thank the Black Hawk Down diorama for making the impetus for that coming into being.
Now, a lot of this stuff is Brickmania kits or has-been kits over the years?
These are older versions. So, I mean, you have the Little Bird helicopters, the Black Hawk, the Humvees. I think almost everything in here, except maybe the technical and some of the burnt-out vehicles, were a kit at one point. The figures. These were our first. Back in the day, these were our first figures that we really went overboard. Like, we're going to print the insides, the insides of the arms and under the arms, the sleeves and stuff. We hadn't done any figures that fancy, and it was we went through various suppliers to get because we didn't have printing capability, so we had to outsource that.
This is before you had Lando pumping out so much insane stuff.
Well, this is all Lando's work, so he did.
Okay, so he's
but we didn't print it in house.
I see.
We didn't have that capability, so. We had to farm it out. Some of these might actually be decals on the guys. I mean, it's that old. We could do decals. That was about it. I think Citizen Brick printed the helmets and Brick Printers, or I don't remember who did it. Dan Keys out in California printed the torsos and legs, I'm sure, on these guys. And Will made us some light blue helmets for brick arms, special brick arms helmets for the UN guys. And this was a lot of firsts. This is like I think the first time we actually said, hey, let's make a theme and then make all the vehicles that go with the theme. We would have never made some of these vehicles, if it hadn't been for this diorama.
Sure. It's really neat to see how Brickmania has kind of like adapted and grown over the years, and you try this different stuff out, and you see that with displays like this and the kits that are represented.
Right. We're trying to tie things together, and if we're going to put something out for people to look at, it might as well feature our sets as well. So.
Let's talk about this building that's kind of under construction over here. So that's an interesting build style there. It's not your typical type of building.
Well, and again, it's copied. We don't have any pictures from the actual battle, but this was in the movie that these guys came running up the stairs with the RPG and shot the helicopter down from the top of a building under construction. And where the helicopter went down in the intersection, there was this giant crane. And of course, like in the middle of a war zone, it was kind of like construction had stopped and these buildings hadn't been touched. Rickety crane. This crane actually is functioning. It's just it's not any point functioning because it's in the diorama.
I like the little Brickmania branding on the back there.
Yeah.
It's very important. I think that's movie accurate as well.
Yeah, of course it is. Brickmania was. I mean, I wouldn't want Brickmania to build my buildings if that's the way it's going to be built.
But it's an interesting build style. Even this one that's kind of half blown apart because it. People might look at that at first and be like, "Oh, it's a ramshackle building. That's probably pretty easy." But
you could have furniture in it.
Yeah. It actually creates a challenge to make it look realistic while still looking kind of like blown apart.
Well, and when we take apart some of our older displays, we salvage those little detail pieces. Like, hey, here's a bed. Here's a radiator. I think there's a radiator over in that the Fury diorama that had come out of another diorama. Like, we need some debris and rubble. We recycle this kind of stuff all the time. I think some of the burnt out Volkswagen we had in our Brandenburg display too. So we try to recycle everything. So it's not just a once and done. But I look at this now and go, wow, we've come a long way because the weapons that we have are far more accurate. The printing is far more accurate. We would have actually made our own insurgents, Warlord and all the other figures, but We just don't have it now. I didn't have it back then. It was a real stretch just to get anything custom done.
Yeah,
It was
but
hard.
you guys push yourselves well, and I think that's what sets Brickmania apart. Some of the incredible stuff that you've been able to accomplish over the years, and the whole team here.
Yeah, definitely out on the edge. And we set the pace, so we're trying to always push the bar a little bit further.
Perfect. Well, this is a great layout. I'm glad you saved this section of it, so
Right.
thanks for taking us through it.
Yeah, it's held up well over the years. I mean, I think this has been in this case for since the last World War brick that we had. So 5 years in the display case. And, this display case was in our warehouse before we actually got the chance to open this GHQ store, so nobody got to see it for a while.
It's well preserved.
Yeah.